Ba 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 ba. Principal Advisors Podcast.
I guess we can give an intro for this. I don't know if we have to be super formal every time, but welcome to the principal's office. This is the only principal's office you'll come into without your child. We're excited to be here. We have Stephan Settanni in the shiny new green. We have Laura Lee, Jason Cook, Jenny Halasz, and Tom Dwyer. And I got really nervous that I was going to pronounce one of the names wrong. I feel like in my stand-up hosting mode where I have to look at my piece of paper before I actually say it. But this is where we're going to talk all things AO and evolution and trends of how people search for things. And boy, it's hard coming up with stuff because there's barely anything out there. But obviously joking, there's so much out there. And we're going to help you distill the most important things and talk about what these things mean and if things are true, if they're veiled and a little bit murky. We're here to help navigate that. And we have a perfect example of one of those things, which is an article we wanted to discuss by New York Magazine. Surprise, surprise, SEO is dead. Say hello to GEO. And so wanted to rip that right open because a lot of SEOs have had a lot of things to say about that. I know amongst us, we have some things to say about that, including the term GEO. So maybe we can start there. And not to put you on the spot, Jenny, but I know you're a big fan of GEO and the term. How do you how do you feel about this emerging, what would you call it, idiom or new acronym of GEO and the actual differences here?
I have plenty to say on that, but first, let me just ask, between the probably 100 years of collective SEO experience we have here, how many times has SEO died? Is it a cat?
Oh,
yeah, more than a cat.
I was going to say every year.
Yeah, yeah. That's strange fact, by the way. My wife is from Brazil, and in Brazil, cats only have 7 lives.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, SEO must
has
be
way more than 7 lives.
Yeah, SEO
way more
must
than 9
be like,
at this point.
Yeah.
SEO is like 12 cats, whether Brazilian or American. So yeah, GEO in general. So for those of you who don't know, GEO stands for geography or geology or any of the other GEOs. It's also purported to stand for Generative Engine Optimization, which is this idea that we have to do something different to show up in these generative engines that have just completely enamored the public with their amazing less than 1% of search volume.
And that's an interesting thing that you bring up too, Jenny, about how us as SEOs so focused on being able to make sure we're matching the language of users decided to come up with an acronym that's it's already taken by geography and the geo type terminology. So it's an interesting call out.
I can't take credit for it. I saw it on LinkedIn.
I mean, half the things I do I've seen on LinkedIn, so I get it. Or Pinterest. Like the things I cook come from Pinterest, or the things I do at work are LinkedIn.
Did anybody see Carolyn Shelby's post on all the other acronyms that we could call SEO?
That's the one you either shared or commented or something.
I definitely shared it.
Yeah, I saw that one.
It was just fantastic.
Yeah. It's like the cobbler's children have no shoes and the SEOs can't SEO themselves or can't market themselves.
So true. So true.
Do as we say, not as we collectively do, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. And I feel like also beyond what it's been called, there's a lot of, at least in our experience and questions from clients on what do we do about GEO versus SEO. And I know Jason and Tom, y'all have had a lot of talks about specific techniques and different things that we can do to be able to optimize for these different engines. But like, what are the key differences? And also, what's the overlap between optimizing for AI and optimizing for SEO, like traditional
Yeah.
Google?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because the weird thing about this article, right, is first of all, trash headline, right? Like we can all
Yeah.
agree, total clickbait. But then it's like you get into the article and it really kind of gets to your point, Stephan, that there is a lot of overlap, right? I think in the phase that we're in now, to Jenny's point, like these AI surfaces are like 1% of the traffic, and everybody's freaking out about it. And I'm not saying we shouldn't pay attention to it, of course, but in this phase, if you will, I feel like there is a lot of overlap. It's just a matter of like, I don't know, to me, it feels like we're just kind of tweaking the the temperature on certain things, right? But a lot of the things that have mattered for years, if you're doing enterprise, white hat, whatever you want to call it, SEO, a lot of that's still here. It's just, maybe we're doing it a little differently, with some of the more data-driven aspects of how these machines consume and then spit back content. So it's interesting because the article sort of says that, but it just brings you in with this very negative doomsday headline.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to read the whole thing anyway. It gets shared, and then
Exactly.
it's going to,
Right.
the people who are reading it or reading the headline are going to it's going to feed their confirmation bias. Like, yeah, SEO is not working, so I need something new.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that could be a great segue, Laura, into the other thing that we were going to talk about today, which is, are people really seeing more clicks from Google and AIOs? What's really going on here?
Well,
Google has an opinion.
of course they're seeing more traffic. Google says they are, right? Yeah, for those who haven't seen, there was a post yesterday from Liz Reed, who's the VP, the head of Google Search, where, among many things, she says that Google is sending more traffic out to websites and the traffic is more qualified. The qualification piece to me is interesting because I think she mentioned in the blog post that they're looking at basically like how many people come back to Google, which in itself we could have a whole conversation about how interesting it is that Google now openly admits that they look at that information, whereas for years they denied it. But anyway, but this notion that the tools that everyone is using are faulty and traffic is really going up when most of the tools that we're using are Google's own tools, Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and they're telling us that impressions are going up and clicks are going down. So yeah, it's I don't know, lot of spin coming out of Google, I think.
Yeah.
I'm curious
Yeah.
what you guys think.
Agreed. And just to give the watchers and listeners some additional context in case you're not steeped in AI and AI news, what Jason's referencing too is some of these updates that have happened with Google, where what it used to be, well, it was ages ago now, but just traditional results that were blue links with a little description underneath them. Fast forward to today, and now they have these AI overviews, or AIOs they call them, where you ask a question like, plan an itinerary for a trip to Rome with my family. And then it produces this AI generated result, which has mentions from other publishers as well as citations, so it does cite, but it has this full answer where that's preventing, at least some people claim, maybe not Google, that the user's staying there and they get their answer right there, so they don't need to go to other sites. And like Jason was saying, Google's saying that people are still going to other sites, but just anecdotally, from my experience, sometimes I get the answer right there. And I think it has changed where at first people were like, what is this? Some people just scroll through. Sometimes, and we had seen in some news publications that it would give strange answers like, how do I get the cheese to stick to my pizza? The answer was glue. How do I get my daily vitamins and minerals? Eat rocks. Yeah. And so one broken tooth later, I found out that I can't fully trust AI overviews, but it's getting better. And I think that Jenny had led this study that she had posted on LinkedIn too, where we're starting to see what Jason was saying with across clients, where impressions are going up, clicks are going down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they really are. It's not, and it's not even so much in the data that Jason actually was the one who put this together. I just wrote the content.
I just pulled some numbers. That's all I did.
Yeah,
it sounds like this is an AI overview where Jason is the publisher and then Jenny is the
yes. I'm getting no
Something
credit
like
over here. Come on.
what was interesting is we found that there wasn't really that big of a reduction in clicks. And what we were seeing actually was an increase in the number of impressions that was then making that click-through rate fall because math. So people were seeing the click-through rate fall, the impressions go up, but looking at the clicks, things were about the same. Sometimes we see some reductions, but also there's that question of like, do you have a business model that can withstand things being easily accessible? If your business model is to provide people what time it is in Paris, France, then maybe you need a new business model.
No.
Yeah. That's a great point too, Jenny. And then another thing that made me think about some work that Jason had done that I do want to make sure he gets credit for this time is and maybe it was Tom actually, I'm not sure, but looking at the different content types or page types to see which types of content or which types of pages started to see reduction in clicks. And it seems like if I remember correctly, that more informational type content, like how do I do this, or learning about specific themes or vocabulary topics, Google produces that right there, and then more specific things, especially like conversional, transactional things. It seems like I haven't seen that dip in traffic.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out for some people that, some of those queries, those top of funnel queries that you may have been getting traffic for and made the numbers look really good. Like we got so many clicks this month, but you probably, unless you're getting money just from ad impressions or something, you're probably not actually converting any of those users. Like it's not necessarily impacting your bottom line. So there's also the question of, should you be, like Jenny was saying, rethinking how you're counting your metrics? Like what determines a success for you? Is it just clicks, or is there something else you should be looking at?
Yeah. It's a great point.
And to Stephan, to your point about the content types, I don't have the data in front of me, but one of the things we noticed recently with one of our clients, we've seen something like on the like looking specifically at financial education content. So it's a client in the financial services industry. So looking at the educational content, our clicks are down something like 25 to 30%. Like it is a real significant drop, right? But what's interesting is when we started to look at the individual pieces, we found a couple of pages that we had launched recently, which were at the heart of the page, they were calculators, right? They were embedded calculators, but we surrounded the calculators with content that we thought was helpful, right? Those pages are seeing an increase in clicks. And it's interesting because, like, at least so far, right? AIs and AI surfaces, AI overviews in Google haven't figured out a way yet to easily replicate those tools, right? So people, the searches that are driving the visibility for those calculators are also leading to clicks, because yes, someone may get some basic information in the AI overview that helps them, but they still need that tool. They still need to do that calculation, right? So that's, that this client, we've been preaching for years now that we really want a robust calculator and tool strategy. And so I think that data is a great demonstration that you got to be smarter about the type of content, right? It all goes back to what Jenny and Laura were talking about. If you're just trying to answer a basic question, frankly, it's probably better for the user sometimes if Google gets it right, that they just get the answer there, because that's really what they need, right? They don't need to click through to 5 different websites to figure out, like, what is my checking routing number? Or, like, you can get that answer pretty easily. But if you've got something that requires deeper commitment and engagement, that's the kind of content where you can still make some inroads, I think.
Yeah,
I think there's one thing that you said there, Jason, that I just want to put a pin on, and that is if Google gets it right, if ChatGPT gets it right. How can users have some confidence that the content they're getting is correct?
Yeah. You don't want me to answer that, right? Because I have no idea.
I'm Googling.
That was a rhetorical question, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very good question. And I think right now, this is the challenge too, is these large language models are very good at sounding confident, but they're not that good. They're not as good at being right. For example, I'll try to keep this short because it's a boring example about pizza, and I always talk about pizza, but there's a specific process to make pizza dough. Yeah. Allora, so, but you go water, salt, yeast, flour. That is the specific process to go, because, and here's the thing, salt usually kills yeast. They don't work well together, like me and Tom. But you got to do salt first and dissolve it, so then that it slows down the fermentation process slightly, because it's not like bread. You don't want your pizza to be gigantic like that marshmallow monster from Ghostbusters. So you do it like that, but a common mistake is to do yeast first. But ChatGPT, I knew that, but I asked ChatGPT and it told me yeast first. And I said, hey, that's not right. And it goes, oh yeah, you're right. Sorry for the oversight. And so if you challenge it, it'll admit that it's wrong.
It'll always say something like, oh, great catch. It's so smart of you to get that. Like,
Yeah. So our self-esteem is through the roof, but our work or research might not be that great if we don't check it. Yeah. That's a good point.
So self-esteem great, pizza not so great.
Yeah. So that's why I have pizza that's worse than Peter Piper.
Yeah, back to the point of, like, how do people know if the answer is right? I'm curious, Tom, your perspective, because I know you work with a couple of clients that are very they've been very accepting, or wanting to really, like, lean into the AI visibility. So I know a couple of them are very particular about making sure that they're represented properly. So, like, have there been any conversations that you've been part of like, checking AI accuracy. I know some of these tools do that as well. Like, I'm curious if you've had any conversations around that.
As far as the accuracy of them being represented in the results, you mean?
Yeah. And just the
Yeah.
accuracy of the results in general,
Yeah, I mean, superficially, yes, but not anything in depth. But I think that's the next iteration of where we're headed, right? Because I think the goal is, if for us, is helping them optimize so that when their stuff is cited, right, it's offering it up in a way that not ensure, or not ensure, but making sure that if it's being cited, it's helping it become the authoritative voice for that, whatever the topic may be. Okay, because that's where the AI falls apart. That's where the AI is losing credibility, because it's doing what you guys are saying. It's not giving the correct answer, or hallucinating, or making a small mistake, which loses credibility with the user. So being able to validate that the information is correct is where it's going to change the user's perception of the AI. And that's by citing sources that are validated and trustworthy, right? So having your content, having our clients' content that is actually that trusted source, is what's going to make the difference for them being the one that's cited, or one of the reasons why they're the one cited. So that's the next iteration of why we're helping them optimize it in that way, so that they can be the ones that are chosen for the citation.
That's great.
That's a really.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to follow up on that, because I think that's an important topic. Maybe we spend a couple of minutes on it, or maybe we save it for another episode. But, I'm not sure how many folks out there are aware of the sources. Like, I'm sure they see the sources if they're paying attention when, a Chat GPT or Google gives them an answer. If they're looking at the sources, obviously they can, read what those sources are. But what we've noticed, right, in some of the early analysis that we've done, is a lot of these citations of a brand are not necessarily, to Tom's point, coming from the brand itself. It's coming from third parties. And in some industries, we've seen that most of those third parties that are getting cited are pay for play. They're like affiliate sites.
Yep.
And I don't know that the average user really, this extends to traditional search, right? When those sites show up in traditional search, yes, there are, on their site, they have to have FCC, disclosures and stuff like that. But when you get into a Chat GPT, it might be sourcing from all of these different sites that are pay for play, but there is no FCC disclosure there. So as a user, if you're trusting that, you're not really getting the full picture, because you're kind of just getting like whoever had the most money to get listed in the right places. So I think that's a really important point that I don't know that the general audience maybe knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting rabbit hole that we're going to find ourselves in over the next 5 to 10 years, of lawsuits being filed where this is concerned, because there really are some disclosures and things that need to be happening that aren't happening. And health is another area where that's going to be a really big issue, I think.
Which, warning, Sam Altman had also said that, as the laws currently state, if there are people that are using ChatGPT as a therapist, there are no laws that are preventing that data from being procured by the government. So just be careful.
Who they're now offering deeply discounted access to.
Yeah.
OpenAI is offering government licensing for $1 a year.
Wow.
So basically, my PSA, if you're listening out there and you're either trying to pick a career or you have children who are going to college, AI law, that's where you want to go in. Because to Jenny's point, I think we're probably in for about a decade of like multi-billion-dollar lawsuits coming from every angle imaginable. But
That's the truth.
What a ride.
Great call.
Or if you want a really busy job, but you want to get paid really poorly for it, compliance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. We are running up on time, so I think we can end it right here. But before we do, I think if there's any clear takeaway, resource, item that we can offer to the listeners, one of them I think is probably that study that Jason and Jenny had worked on, where you can see in Google Search Console how you're performing along the benchmark from all the clients from us. There's a lot of other studies out there that are showing the same thing. So I think that could be a good source, and we can link to the original post with the study. I think perhaps future conversations we can talk a little bit more about tracking and visibility, but that means you'll have to subscribe to the podcast and listen to more. I know we had talked about a way to end this, and I did ask ChatGPT if it could summarize the New York Magazine article as if it was a WWE episode. So,
Nice.
Is this in honor of Hulk Hogan or no?
Yeah. So I will post in the chat to offer if anybody feels like they've got WWE announcer voice or spirit.
God, no.
I feel like Tom, you might be our guy.
I don't have a WWE voice.
Okay.
I sense the channeling Mean Gene in you, Tom. I think you can do it.
You want to give it a try, Tom? We can edit the voice in post. We'll just put a filter on it.
Did you send something? I didn't see it. Where is it?
I just put it in the chat.
Oh, good Lord. Let me see here.
I have a feeling we're all going to have our time to be embarrassed.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Let me go off camera. Maybe I can do it then. Let's see.
But by the way, I just realized in the middle of our episode, I have a professional microphone behind me.
That's what you should have in front of you.
Yeah. It's not plugged in
Yeah.
or recording any of this. I'm just using my computer audio. So maybe next time I'll try and bring it over. But
all right,
I think you should put that in the B-roll of the episode.
The microphone.
Having that.
Yeah.
Yeah, having that. Like, oh yeah, look at that. All right, Tom.
All right.
Come on.
Let's see what we got here. Ready?
Let's smell what Tom is cooking here.
Well, I'm definitely not doing it like, Macho Man or anything like that. That's for sure. In the WWE ring of digital marketing, longtime champ SEO gets blindsided by brutal newcomer GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. Instead of fighting for Google rankings, GEO brawls to get cited by AI chatbots like ChatGPT and Perplexity. The match shifts fast, with content creators retooling their tactics to win favor with bots, not browsers. Surprise twist, OpenAI might secretly be using Google search behind the scenes, so maybe SEO isn't totally down for the count. But make no mistake, there's a new title belt in play, and GEO's gunning for it.
That was not bad, Tom.
Nice.
You got to give us a brother at the end, right?
Brother.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Oh man, you almost remind me of that the guy that did the trailer voiceovers in the '90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a world.
Coming soon. In a world.
Yeah, in a world. That's it. Yeah.
GEO.
Oh, awesome.
We're GEO living. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, and with that, we're gonna sign off. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review and all that good stuff. We'll talk to you soon.